All right, episode 458 with Mr. Stephen Heuer is brought to you by the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. This thing is by far our best-selling item that we have in our store. It is incredible. Sauna therapy has been used for thousands and thousands of years to help detoxify the body, to pull heavy metals and poisons out of your fat cells, to increase your lymphatic flow and your lymphatic system drainage, to improve circulation. It increases heat shock proteins in the body, which has a direct impact on improving your immune system. Some people have said by up to 40%. The great thing about this Relax Far Infrared Sauna too is that it is a far infrared technology, which means it uses light frequencies to penetrate deep within the body into the organs and cells by increasing the core temperature of the body. If you're interested in learning more, watch the videos from Dr. Brian Clement and Dr. Rhonda Patrick, as well as the other promotional video and the podcast we've done with Phil Wilson. Sauna therapy is incredible. It's by far my favorite item that we have. I love it. I do it every single day. This one is great too because it's portable and you can break it down, and setting it up is very easy. It's amazing. So check it out. And we're also brought to you by a brand new website I'm working on with two amazing people. One is a naturopathic doctor who's been studying and practicing naturopathic medicine for 40 years. The other one is a former medical anesthesiologist who is now doing natural health. And I'm so proud to be working together with these two people on an amazing private membership website where you get access to them and we answer your health questions on a monthly basis. And it's a great way to download all kinds of cutting edge information, protocols, yearly cleanses, and have the support of other people in the community and the forums in there. It's an amazing place. So if you're interested in diving deeper and getting to the root cause of your health issues, I would highly recommend Perpetual Healing. So if you would like access to Perpetual Healing, as well as the sauna, go to extremehealthradio.com/458. Well, happy Friday, everybody. We appreciate you listening. Thank you, and welcome to another edition here of Extreme Health Radio. Really excited to have you listening and to be talking with Stephen Heuer today. It's going to be a great show. My wife is not on this show. She's attending to some other things that she has to do. So we thank all of you for being on the show today. We're going to be talking about some really interesting ideas, essential fatty acids, and how they apply to your health. And I'm going to read a few things here before we introduce Stephen. But if you guys want to listen to this particular show on the website, you can do that at extremehealthradio.com/458. This is episode 458. So if you want to check that out, you can go on over to extremehealthradio.com/458. And let's see, we do broadcast 3 days a week now on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So if you want to join us or follow us on Instagram or Facebook or iTunes, any of those places, Stitcher, you can subscribe and you'll be notified every time that we post a new episode. And we're on YouTube as well. So if you want to subscribe over there and get notifications of all of our new content, you can do that as well. Let's see, any other housekeeping? I think that's about it. Stay tuned next week. We've got 3 more shows for you, some really good stuff. I'm really excited about everybody we have on. This is going to be a lot of fun. Today is Mr. Stephen Heuer, and you may know him or his name. He was on episode 88 way back when, quite some time ago, and he is the formulator of the, I know many of you guys purchased the One World Whey, and he is the formulator and the founder of Cocoon Nutrition, which produces the One World Whey. So really cool thing. And he's earned his naturopathic degree back in 1990, and he's been constantly studying everything from live cell therapy, ozone therapy, psychic surgery, magnetic therapy, and many other different therapies, natural therapies, and he's been doing this for 20 years. And so he's been helping in a private practice over on the East Coast in South Carolina for 20 years. And I want to share with you a couple things, too, that I picked up before the show concerning fatty acids and how important they are. I want to read you a couple things. In a 1992 study on cell cultures, it was shown that EPA and DHA inhibited cancer-caused by radiation when given 2 weeks prior, during, and 2 weeks after radiation treatment by 65 to 93%. Crazy, right? In 1939, the American Journal of Cancer stated that processed cottonseed oil was associated with an increased risk of skin cancer. In 1975, the medical journal Cancer Research implicated distorted trans fats linked to cancer. So this whole idea of oxygenation of the cells, of inside the cells that Dr. Otto Warburg talked about, all of these things affect the disease process in cancer and things like that. So we're going to be talking about essential fatty acids, omega-3, omega-6, omega-9, and how a lot of the oils in today's supermarkets are rancid and things. And so we're going to be talking to Stephen Heuer. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. It's a pleasure always to be on, Justin. I want to just first off say thank you for dedicating yourself to this work of learning whatever the truth may be on a certain topic, of hosting people that have a little more knowledge on those topics and sharing that information through the internet with all your listeners, so that you can gradually convert more people over to whatever the truth is they need to hear on whatever the topic is. So thank you for doing your work.
Oh yeah, you're so welcome.
Second, I want to say that I want to correct the introduction a little bit. It's a little bit outdated. I'm not the founder of the One World Way. I am the distributor for it. The inventor is a man that holds degrees in nuclear physics. He's a biomedical engineer and a molecular biologist, and he's figured out a way to use frequencies. He's a multi-million-dollar lab, and he uses frequencies to restore the protein structure of the whey protein that he gets this high-quality whey from grass-fed cows.
Oh, my goodness.
Hormone antibiotic-free, and then he puts an array of frequencies into the whey so that the energy or the information in the whey is now going to epigenetically signal your cells to become more efficient at energy production and protein synthesis. And that's why One World Whey gets results beyond any other whey protein. And secondly, it's not cocoon nutrition anymore. In 2012, we changed our business name to Synergistic Nutrition. So we're now that name, and our website is sgn80.com if people want to see what we currently have to offer.
Oh, yeah. I've often wondered. I've seen the different advertisements that are still floating around. They must be really old with cocoon. And I was like, I wonder if that's just a different name or what that's all about. So interesting.
That was what I was from 1990 till 2012. That was the business name I operated under. And then I was in California all that time, and I moved out to South Carolina 10 years ago. So I've been in South Carolina for 10 years. And and there's always advances in this field that I learn about and I'm excited to share.
Yeah, interesting. So it's under Synergistic Nutrition now, and that's the whey protein that I take. And I just love, what I love combining your whey protein with? I love combining it with colostrum and grass-fed ghee, and I put it in a little bit of coffee. And I do about 4 ounces of coffee. This is about all my body can handle, and I dilute it with some water and some medicinal mushroom tea, and I combine all that stuff together. And oh my goodness, what a flavor! It tastes so good. Oh.
That must taste good. Do you get like that jacked up effect that coffee gives, but you don't get the burnout effect because you're nourishing your body with the foods, I guess?
Yeah, you know what? I did. It was so funny because I've tried different. I'm very sensitive, and so I've tried different amounts of coffee. And one time I took it up to 6 ounces, and I just couldn't do it. My heart was racing, and so, but when I combine it with the One World Whey and the colostrum and the ghee and the fats, I put some coconut oil but one time I tried to do it, and I was doing my meditation, so I tried to meditate after because I wanted to do my meditation, afterwards it would just kind of it just kind of worked out that way. And so I couldn't do it. My heart was pounding, but I found 4 ounces to be perfect, and the whey makes it taste so good. Oh.
Do you use a flavored whey or just the unflavored?
I've never tried the unflavored, but I do the vanilla.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, then I think that the fat in there somehow maybe makes it more of a time-release form of caffeine. Maybe the caffeine gets bound up to the oils so that there's a slower release of the adrenal stimulation too. So that's good too.
Yeah. Do you do coffee, or do you put anything like some of the substances that you sell? You sell so many different things. So many people think that you just sell the whey, but you sell so many different things. Do you do coffee at all? And if you do you put any of these extra things in there?
I don't do coffee because I had adrenal exhaustion when I was 20, so I don't get a much of a hit or a beneficial effect from coffee. It's mostly of a negative for me. So when you have really weak adrenals, they don't do well under stimulation. So yeah, I just the whey protein, I'll mix it with either coconut water or just water. I like to mix it with water and put it in the fridge and let it get thicker. So let it sit there for a few hours and get cold and thick. And I like to add the oils. I'll add these oils we'll be talking about in this interview, these unique, almost zero oxidation seed oils. I'll either add hemp seed oil or flaxseed oil to the One World Whey drink, and then I get the fats that sort of give me a little bit more satiation, but also the oils are emulsified by the sulfur amino acids in the whey.
Nice.
So it's more thoroughly and quickly absorbed because the fats are made smaller by the emulsifying power of the sulfur amino acids.
Ah, it sounds so good. It sounds so tasty. I love it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about fats today, and so the things that I'm wondering about is that as I want to find out why they're so important, and then what's wrong with the fats that we have today. Because I take coconut oil and I take ghee and I'm just wondering the differences between those. So first, I want to start out with why these fats are so important. I read some of the studies there in 1992 and 39 and 75 about their relationship to cancer. And then I want to learn about what's wrong with the oils that we have in our market today, and then how the ones that you take are different.
Okay, so your first oils you mentioned, the coconut and the ghee, are fine typically when they're not hydrogenated. They're just naturally pressed, or the butter is naturally derived from the cream from grass-fed cows, and those are saturated fats. So there's less space on the carbon chain for oxygen to bind to that saturated fat, so it remains relatively unoxidized. So it's a safe, stable fat. But those fats are fats that your body already makes naturally on its own. Your body can make cholesterol. Your body can make stearic acid. It can make palmitic acid. It can make all these long carbon chains that are found in coconut oil and in ghee. It can make those things. The body doesn't require those from the outside to get them. So with regards to the essential fatty acids that we'll be talking about, those are the two fats that from your seed oils, omega-3 and omega-6, so it's alpha-linolenic acid and then linoleic acid are the two technical terms for describing omega-3 and omega-6 that come from seed oils. And those oils are called essential because your body can't make them. It has to have them coming from the outside, from the diet, on a regular basis, because your cell walls are dependent upon these oils to maintain the ability to attract and absorb oxygen. It's one of the mechanisms by which cells absorb oxygen. When you look at the cell itself, the structure of the membrane consists of 50% protein, 50% fat, and when you look at the fat portion, 50% of the fat portion is supposed to be the unsaturated omega-3 and omega-6, and then 50% is the saturated portion of fat. So it's the unsaturated portion that, based on the book by let's see, what's his name? He wrote the book The Hidden Story of Cancer by Brian Peskin.
Oh, right.
So he wrote a book that basically enlightened us about the work of Otto Warburg and how it was that the membrane of the cell was dependent upon the omega-3 and omega-6 in its unoxidized, undamaged state to become a part of the cell wall, to be a key factor in the cell's ability to attract and absorb oxygen.
Okay, so the cell membrane itself, obviously it has many different functions, but one of the things, at least in terms of its relation to cancer, is to attract and bring in oxygen through the cell membrane and then deliver that oxygen inside the cell.
Yeah, and currently my understanding is based on all that I've read, is there's a couple of mechanisms at least defined that are in controlling oxygen uptake. So one of them is the sodium-potassium pump inside the cell. So the cell is supposed to be a 7.4 extracellular pH and intracellular pH. But as the inside of the cell operates to make energy, there's going to be metabolic lactic acid production from the mitochondria that's going to lower the pH within the cell from 7.4 down to 6.6. When it goes down to 6.6, the cell all of a sudden opens up its membrane pores and says, we want to kick out this excess acid and bring in nutrients and alkalinity and oxygen. So that is another mechanism, my understanding is whereby the cell gets oxygen. But this other mechanism of the essential fatty acids is also there. It's an attractor. Basically, unsaturated fatty acids that still have their electrons and everything are oxygen magnets. That's why, they are so powerful at attracting oxygen. And so it's a very important subject, and your body also converts a little bit of the omega-3 into the DHA EPA that your brain needs and your nerves need. Over almost 50% of the fat content of the human brain is supposed to be DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, which we make small amounts of. We don't make enough from the seed oils to maintain our optimal brain functioning based on, PubMed studies I've read. We still need to get the DHA EPA from an outside source, and then that, a lot of people don't understand when they hear the term omega-3s or essential fatty acids, they automatically default to thinking of fish oils. So we have two forms of the same fat. So there's the fatty acid alpha-linolenic acid or omega-3 from seed oils like flaxseed oil, and then your body will convert about 3 to 5% of that into the DHA EPA that becomes a part of the brain. But DHA EPA is also found in fish oils. So it's an elongation of the fatty acid molecule to a slightly different state to become the EPA DHA, and your body needs about 5% of its fatty acid needs are the EPA DHA, and 95% of the cell's fatty acid needs is the omega-3 seed oil alpha-linolenic acid and the omega-6 linoleic acid. That's 95% of the cell's fatty acid needs. So when you look at the oils that are on the market today, if you were to go to a health food store and you were to buy out of the refrigerated section an oil in a dark bottle under refrigeration, that oil is pressed at 1920s technology. So it's a corkscrew press. The seeds are fed into it, and the head of where the pressing is taking place is heated up to 120 degrees, and the seeds come up to that head, and through friction heat and mechanical grinding, the seeds are ground, the oils are ground, the heat causes more release of the oils, and oxygen is all being mixed in and pushed into and ground into the oils. So the oil is automatically 10% oxidized by the time you press it, and it's structurally damaged. And just like amino acids that make up proteins have to retain the shape that nature gave them, otherwise the body can't use them structurally to make new proteins. That's called a denatured amino acid, hence the value of undenatured amino acids. It's the same way with fatty acids. The structure of the fatty acid has to be retained. With the shape that nature gave the alpha-linolenic and the linoleic acid has to be retained for your body to use it, otherwise it doesn't work. So the structural friction and grinding damages some of that structure, thus subtracting greatly from what the seed oil could do for your body. The seed oil still has beneficial properties, even in this damaged, oxidized state, as all these studies you could read up on PubMed have all been based upon these kinds of damaged oils. But about, 9 to 10 years ago, a man named Andreas Wecker, he's a very famous man in Germany because he won 5 Olympic medals in gymnastics, 2 bronze, 2 silver, and 1 gold. In 1996, he won gold on the high bar in Atlanta, and so he's a national hero in Germany. But for 28 years of doing gymnastics, 14 of those years, he was taking ibuprofen or some form of a drug that had an anti-inflammatory effect. Because when you're a professional gymnast, you're working out approximately 6 hours a day, high level of intensity, maximum focus, maximum effort, which then of necessity will cause chronic inflammation. Chronic pain and chronic inflammation is part of the picture. And so, as Andreas says, there is no professional gymnast out there who's not taking anti-inflammatories. It just doesn't exist. So this damages, when you take anti-inflammatories, your body's ability to, and people might know this, if you take aspirin or other anti-inflammatories, your capillaries are subject to hemorrhaging or breaking open and bleeding internally. So you're subject to bruising, you're subject to internal bleeding because the capillaries are only one cell wall thick. And when you interrupt the natural processes of the body with the anti-inflammatory drug, you interrupt the body's ability to make protein. So this one cell wall thick capillary is no longer maintaining the structural integrity to maintain blood vessel strength, so that you are now subject to those blood vessels breaking easily. So he experienced this in his intestines, and he experienced developing Crohn's disease. So after couple of years of suffering with this Crohn's disease, he started to bleed so bad through his intestines, bloody diarrhea all the time, that he lost 80% of his blood and was admitted to the hospital. He lost 45 pounds of weight, so he was now like under 100 pounds, very skinny, very small. And in the hospital, they drew blood out of him just to examine the blood and see what was wrong. And that little bit of blood they drew out of him, he'd already lost 80% of his blood, so it made him go unconscious. So they figured it out. They had to put like 5 transfusions into his body overnight.
My goodness.
Brought him back to life.
Wow.
So you want to say something?
No, that's just incredible. I wanted to ask you, though, too, what are some of the other, outside of oxygenation of the blood cells, of the cells inside the cells, and in its relation to cancer? I mean, DHA, all of these things have an effect on our hormones. And what are some other reasons why people need to really make sure they're getting all the right fats? I mean, there's a million of them, right?
So basically, when we said that your body can make the saturated fats on its own, and it can't make the unsaturated fats, so you have to have the omega-3 and omega-6 in the diet from some source, and you would ideally want to get it in its most unoxidized, in structurally intact state. The current oils on the market aren't offering that. So when you do take the right oils into your body, you're going to provide your body the ability to, again, have cellular respiration. You're going to provide your body the ability to make the fats for the brain, which, of course, helps your mood and your memory and normal cognitive function. You're going to help your prostaglandin hormone production, which deals with inflammation. Your eicosanoid production, which also deals with inflammation, are all made from these fats. Your GLA, gamma-linolenic acid, is going to be made from these oils, which is needed for women's menstrual cycles, so that they typically would want to reach for. They'll typically reach for primrose oil, evening primrose oil, and one other one that I'm forgetting right now that basically enables them to get GLA, because that's going to be a fat that helps them with their prostaglandin hormone production, which helps them with a menstrual cycle that's free of cramping. Is one component. Magnesium is another critical component for the uterus not to cramp. But and then you've got
hormone production.
Studies show that you basically increase your antioxidant levels when you take flaxseed oil, and even when you mix it with lipoic acid, you get an increase in superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione, and reduction of oxidation of fats. So you're basically increasing the antioxidant levels by taking the oils, which then gets rid of your inflammation. And getting rid of inflammation is the key to everything, because all your chronic diseases is a chronic state of inflammation, and you don't heal when you're chronically inflamed. So you have to first get rid of your inflammation, and then your body can heal. Which gets me back to the story that I was saying with regards to Andreas. After he spent 7 weeks in the hospital, they got him on 9 meds. He was getting no better. He gets dismissed from the hospital. He discharges himself. His friend picks him up that has his own private press that he makes his own private flaxseed oil, gets him on this stuff, and he's taking 3 teaspoons a day. And in 2 months, he's off all 9 medications. So Andreas has such a turnaround in his health just from this fresh pressed flax oil that he decides to devote his attention to making an even better pressed flax oil. So coming from a family of engineers, he has a natural inclination to engineer. So he engineered a new seed press that presses at, so the seeds are only, they're not ground, they're just pressed, so the oil comes out easily, quickly. The information is not structurally damaged. There's no oxidation. The oil is put immediately in Myron glass. So you end up with an oil that's been tested to have like 0.01% oxidation even after 2 years in storage.
Yeah, I was reading about the shelf storage of these oils, and it's incredible. It's years, isn't it?
Yeah, that's of course unopened. Once you've opened the bottle and you've exposed the oils to oxygen, you'll want to use it in 3 months. But an unopened, unbroken seal to the bottle, 2 years and it's still 0.01%. That's compared to everything else on the market, which is minimum 10% and more likely 20 to 30% oxidized, and structurally damaged. So, been in this industry 25 years, taken all the oils on the market, taken the hemp seed oils, taken the flaxseed oils, taken the various blends of oils, the various ones that say, oh no, this is the right blend, this is the right ratio, taken them all. And then I get on these oils. And the same day, I took a tablespoon of 5-seed, a tablespoon of flax, and 15 drops of coriander. And it was like in 3 hours I was going, oh my God, I'm feeling the strength in my body that I have not normally felt. And I just got up and I did 25-pound arm curls for a while. Then I did push-ups, and I don't normally feel like doing that. So that was phenomenal. Then a week later, I get the black cumin seed oil. I tried it, and it was like, I tried it at night. I took it with dinner. It was like a tablespoon of flax and a tablespoon of black cumin. Black cumin's got some kind of jet fuel-like properties in terms of energization to the body, because I was up all night, but in a good way, and that I had energy. I was productive. I did things. And in the morning, I still had energy. I expected to be tired and want to sleep in the morning, but instead I hopped on a bike and biked 20 miles. I haven't felt like doing that since I was in my 30s. So this stuff really got my attention from the effects that I got within 2 weeks' time. So I was really excited and knew that there's an aspect of nutritional healing that's been completely missing, because there's never been a seed oil pressed for forever until now that's actually unoxidized and retaining all the information in its undamaged state.
So I would say probably, so even when you're looking in the stores, something that's in a dark bottle, something that says cold press, something that is refrigerated, all of these things are still using the same technology that you're talking about back in the 20s, right? Where they're grinding and using heat and all that. Yes, that is exactly what we're saying. All those oils. That's why you can take them and you don't feel anything. And then you can take ours and you feel them. And people get so hooked in terms of how good they feel that they don't want to run out. That there's such a dramatic difference. I mean, if you look at it, your body is structurally protein and fat predominantly. And yeah, there's some protein sugar structures too. So there's some carbohydrates attached to proteins, but that's minimal compared to the predominance that your body is physically a protein fat structure. So we address protein all the time with various good protein sources, but we've not addressed the fatty acid need portion. And people that think that they're going to get these kinds of effects, or that they're going to take care of their fatty acid needs from ground up flaxseed meal, ground up chia seed meal, eating just raw nuts, pumpkin seeds, whatever, I'm telling you, you are missing a huge boat. You are not going to get the therapeutic effect from the tiny amounts of essential fatty acids you get from chewing on those nuts or seeds, or grinding them up and adding them to some food. It just ain't going to happen. There is a dramatic effect that happens in your body from getting these oils in them. So I have to ask, I mean, where do you think people were getting undenatured fatty acids, up until now? People, I guess, just weren't getting them in their diet, even though they're consuming, the oils that are on the market. Their bodies have never really gotten anything. And that leads me to wonder if that's exacerbating this chronic inflammation that you were just talking about. So before 1945, when agriculture was still traditional agriculture with no chemicals used, you had grass-based farming, and farmers paid attention to soil fertility such that grass was still the dominant. That's what herbivores ate. So whether it was your chicken or your cow or your goat or your pig, whatever animal it was, they got grass as a part of their diet or exclusively as their diet. So the grass was giving them a balance of the omega-3 and the omega-6, which was becoming a part of the fatty tissues of the animal. And the animal was also making vitamins A, D, and K2 from the grass. So there was these three fat-soluble vitamins are part of how your body is able to correctly use minerals and stuff. So there's this whole thing that was, and if you go back even further to the 1930s when Weston A. Price went to Loicho Valley in, I think it's Switzerland, where he found that they used this butter as was like a sacred thing, that they not only consumed it, but they actually burned their candles from it. And the butter was an orange, red, yellow, golden butter. It wasn't a deep yellow, it was literally a red orange. And that kind of hue or carotenoid content is not seen in today's butter or today's egg yolks. But I've been to Germany. I've seen the red orange yolks. I've seen what can happen to the color of, say, the vitamin A content of the egg yolk. And now that I've read about the butter, it becomes an orange-red color, which gives you a level of nutrition that you can't get, that you could say they got their essential fatty acid needs met from this healthy milk, this healthy eggs, these healthy meats with these healthy fats, and they lived in a time where there wasn't the degree of oxidation going on in the atmosphere. There wasn't, mercury in the atmosphere. There wasn't chemtrails in the atmosphere. There wasn't,
negative electromagnetic fields destroying their cellular membranes and making them have free radical damage, there wasn't the degree of stress and toxicity that we have today. So there's such a higher turnover rate of a loss of our own cells just from free radical damage and stress and a chronic acid pH in our day today that there's more that we have to do. So while our ancestors may have thrived and done well on relying 100% on food sources, that was at a time where soil mineral levels were still decent and people still ate foods nutrient rich enough and lived in an environment that was so much less polluted and so much cleaner that they lived relatively healthy, robust lives. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that nowadays, so we have to compensate. In regards to minerals, the calcium, 80% of the body's mineral needs is calcium. So when you look at soil plant biology, 80% of the mineral needs of a plant is calcium, 20% is the other elements, and that's true of the animal and of the human. So the calcium is what determines the level of mineral sugars. The calcium and trace minerals is what determines the level of mineral sugars in that plant. Mm-hmm. So we end up with foods, all of our organic produce, there's no real remineralization going on. Yeah, they add manure. Yeah, they grow cover crops until the cover crops into the ground, but they're not remineralizing with calcium and trace minerals every 5 to 7 years. So you end up with foods so low in minerals, which is read through a Brix reading. It's taking a little bit of the juice of the fruit or vegetable, putting it on a refractometer, mm-hmm. and then you'll get a reading of the level of minerals in your food. That is also very deficient. So you end up with the tendency towards being chronically acidic from a lack of minerals in the body, which leads to chronic inflammation. Well, if you could just make your cells have enough essential fatty acids and your cells breathe better, and you activate these antioxidant mechanisms that flax oil in conjunction with lipoic acid has been found to do, you help to put out that fire. And that's why this guy Andreas, basically Andreas, his story in terms of going further, he experienced not only he engineered a new way to press the seed oils, and then he started to press the oils, and he still had the Crohn's disease symptoms, but it wasn't until he pressed his own coriander seed oil in addition to the flax he was already pressing that in 2 months of taking the coriander and the flax, the remainder of all his Crohn's symptoms went away, which he attributes to the coriander's ability to kill candida because he believes that the candida was causing the Crohn's disease and the chronic inflammation in his gut. So he was really, his body mass was gone. He was overweight, and now he's totally gained back his muscle mass. He's doing gymnastics again at age 46. And this is all through years of, taking the oils and eating a good diet that he healed up his gut and then healed up his body.
So now I'm curious about the actual seeds and the flax seeds and all the different coriander and things like that. I'm assuming they're all organic and grown in a very, very great way, right? Yes.
Oils, the seeds that are obtained are all organic, and they're all the high quality that you'd want, and then pressed with this new technology that he's patented. That's a new way of pressing seed oils and again, you don't want to filter your seed oils, which again destroys or subtracts from their value. You want them to be immediately stored in Myron glass, which he's the first person to ever come up with that. He's the first person that ever came up with storing oils in Myron glass, which protects it from all the light that could damage it further. So that's why they can stay fresh for 2 years in an unopened bottle and have virtually zero oxidation.
Now, how much? I want to ask you really quickly about how much you take, because I have a really something I've been thinking about for a long time. And I'm curious about this. I've always wanted someone to who knows about this kind of thing to answer this. I'm sure you're familiar with essential oils and things like that, and how like the rose oil, for example, there might be thousands and thousands and thousands of rose heads in a drop of oil, right? It's this incredible ratio. And with these oils too, I'm curious. You have such a concentration, so I'm assuming you don't need a lot, right? But if you were to take like a teaspoon of the oil that you're talking about, any one of the oils that you're talking about, what would that be in relation to actual food bulk? And is it unnatural for your body to take that? I don't think it would be, but some people would disagree. Do you think?
Well, again, it's like there's the philosophy and the theory of what works. And there are a lot of theories out there that every one of them are very logical, sound plausible, from fruitarianism to vegetarianism to getting your entire nutrients from just whole foods to, the importance of juicing and juice fasting, which is a concentrated food. So why would you want to take juices if you had a philosophy that you only want to live on whole foods? You wouldn't. So I say boulder dash to all the theories and all the philosophies, no matter how logical they are, unless they actually work. And so if it doesn't work universally on the vast majority of people, then I don't want to bother with it. And that's what a lot of theories are that's what category they fall into. They sound logical, they sound great, but they don't actually work on the vast majority of people. So the seed oils that we're talking about here are concentrated. You don't need much to get effects. And when Andreas was taking this and first introduced to it, when he had his Crohn's disease, he was taking only a teaspoon of fresh pressed flax oil 3 times a day, and in 2 months he was off all 9 medications. I think that in the beginning, most people are deficient in these EFAs, so their body's going to thrive on doing larger amounts. I personally took tablespoons in the beginning, and I did that for many, many weeks. But then I noticed my body didn't want those quantities anymore, so now I'm back down to maybe, a tablespoon twice a day of the oils. But that's, and it kind of depends upon your body. I always tell people that there's no book that can tell you better what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat than your own body, because your own body is a complex, sophisticated chemical factory computer that knows better than any book or expert what to do. So listen to your body, and it will tell you how much to consume. And if that's in the beginning, your body wants more, then generously feed it what it wants. And then after it's gotten, you could say it's oil change, then your body won't necessarily need as much, and not want to consume as much, and so you just listen to it and follow its orders.
Are you noticing Are you noticing any decreased inflammation in joints or cracking joints or things like that in your joints and bones?
I don't have any of those. I've not had any of those, fortunately, yet in my life. I've not had any joint cracking bones or aches or pains in my bones or joints. But for me, I just noticed it energetically. I got an Epstein-Barr virus infection in 1991 that led to chronic fatigue, that I always basically do what I need to nutritionally to try and keep my immune system to keep that in suppression, but it's still a work, and it's an energetic expenditure on the part of my body that leaves me not as energetic as I'd like to be. So these things that I do supplementally help me to gauge the level of, you could say, increase in vitality I have. And this has definitely increased my vitality, my strength and my vitality. And I do feel better. My skin is more moist. It just feels really good. Sometimes my face looks less wrinkled when I sleep good, that kind of thing. Yeah, I like what you were saying earlier before about how our bodies are primarily,
protein and fat. And it makes so much sense. It seems like there will be a little bit of carbohydrate floating around in the blood. Like people have said, there's a teaspoon of sugar. There's just very little carbohydrates in the blood, but really we're made up of protein and fat. And if that's the case, which seems like it is, then getting the best, essential fatty acids and the best fat profiles you possibly can through eating proper fats and eating good fats and supplementing with things like this, it seems like it would have a huge effect, for most people.
Yeah, it does. And, we have case histories that are really, really, really impressive. Andreas has had people come to him that have had intestinal problems like colitis, and one guy was going to get his colon removed in 4 months, and he's going to have a colostomy, and he got on the oils, and in 4 months, when he went to the doctor for an examination, he had no problem. He was completely healed.
Wow.
There was another lady that had part of her intestine was rotting because she had such bad constipation that her bowels were backed up, and she had, part of her colon was going to be surgically removed in that case as well, and she was scheduled for surgery in 3 weeks. So she got on the oils, and again in 3 weeks her colon was completely healthy, which that's unheard of. But when you're dealing with, you could say, membrane anatomy, and you are finally giving your cells a oil that they really have been wanting, craving, needing, but haven't had access to in significant quantities all your life, then miracles can happen.
That's so great.
The black cumin seed oil is probably becoming the most popular of our oils this oil has been studied extensively, and if you read about it on PubMed, there's study after study after study about its ability to basically kill virtually almost every tumor cell that's been examined, whether it's cancer, breast, whatever. Prostate or breast or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's just done a really excellent job with this chemical that's naturally in it called thymoquinone. It's also gives you a lot of energy. People kind of report that gives them a lot of energy, which is why you may not want to take it at night because it might keep you up. People have used it to burn fat off their body effortlessly. I mean, I saw one YouTube of a guy that had a belly at one time. He said that after doing a teaspoon of black cumin seed oil with a teaspoon of honey and cinnamon 3 times a day, that he burned all that belly fat off. He gained the definition to his abdomen back without even really any effort, and he still ate like 1 to 2 loaves a day of bread. I mean, he was a big guy, so he could eat a lot of food. He could eat that much carbohydrate and still didn't, he still lost the belly fat. And then there was a study that I read where they said that the antioxidant properties of black cumin seed oil were measured, and they found that if you consumed it by itself, you'd gain like 80% antioxidant protection. But when you consumed it with honey, you gained 100% protection. So there's some synergistic effect perhaps with combining those two.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I see you have a bunch of different oils. I wanted to ask you, because it seems like you have a bunch of different kinds of oil here. A lot of people make a big deal and they talk a lot, and it's frankly been confusing to me. I haven't been able to really wrap my mind around it. The balance between omega-6 and omega-3 and omega-9, what's all that about? Do you know, is there...
Yeah, it's what it is that they keep seeing that omega-6 is causing inflammation, and that omega-3 is the one that's more deficient. And then there's even debate on that in other circles where they're saying, oh, no, there's too much omega-3 and we need to emphasize omega-6. So you're going to hear contradictory people saying different things. And I think it has to boil down to partly to what oils are you referring to in the studies you're doing. And it's always because the oils are oxidized.
Okay. Oh,
so whether
right.
that's the fish oil or whether that's the seed oil, the study information might be negative because they use oxidized oils. And the results are not negative when the oils are unoxidized. So I contend that the omega-6 and omega-3 ratio is a non-issue for the most part if you're getting both of them when they're unoxidized.
Now, where are people getting omega-6 or too much omega-6?
So omega-6 is naturally occurring in all the oils. So whether you're eating some bread that has canola oil in it at the health food store, or whether you're eating a salad dressing, pre-made salad dressing with oil that's got some soybean oil or canola oil. Canola oil is the most dominant one. Most health food store pre-prepared items have some degree, or I should say a lot of them have some degree of canola oil or soybean oil in them, which are omega-6 oils.
Okay.
So you have a preponderance of omega-6 vegetable oils in pre-prepared foods everywhere, and that's what people are getting, whether it's they're a health food store person or whether they're shopping at a regular commercial supermarket or whether they're buying restaurant food. It's all high excess in omega-6.
Omega-6.
And it's all oxidized omega-6.
Oh,
so
okay.
oxidized omega-6, basically what that is that's an 18 carbon chain molecule with 3 or more openings on the fatty chain called a polyunsaturated fat. Oxygen has become bound to those 3 openings. Mm-hmm. So now the oxygen is going to go into the cell in the body, and it's going to steal electrons from your tissues, creating free radical damage.
Oh,
so that
so
is what oxidized oils are. So when you properly press the oils, like what Andreas is doing with these Andreas seed oils, is you end up with an oil where the oxygen has not become bound into it. All of the antioxidant properties naturally in the seed oil, the pigments and stuff, are naturally present. So you're going to protect those antioxidants are going to grab and stop the oxygen from reaching the fatty acid that could become oxidized. So you have this protection mechanism as well as the careful pressing process, plus it's stored in Myron glass. So you have a completely unoxidized omega-6 and omega-3. Well, what do? They're shuttled around. Once they get in the body, your LDL cholesterol shuttles around omega-3 and omega-6 to the cells, to the body, so that the body could use them. They become a part of the cell wall, and hence you've got functionality to the cell where it's going to attract oxygen into the cell as a result of that. And that's also why Joanna Budwig had such success with her anti-cancer program, was because she brought in fresh pressed flax oil with cottage cheese, and she had 90% success rate curing cancer in the 1950s because she was basically increasing the body's cellular oxygenation capacity, which tumor cells can't grow in oxygen-rich environment.
It's interesting because a lot of people talk about, we've talked to Ed McCabe about oxygen therapies and doing all of that, and people talk about getting more oxygen, and so it's interesting that something like a fat, people don't think of the relationship between oxygen and fat, but it's so fascinating when you think about it. I mean, we had Brian Peskin on, who you mentioned a little while ago, talking about the dangers of fish oil, and he was talking about the same thing of bringing oxygen into the cell through the fatty acids, and it's something we don't think about, reoxygenating our tissues through fats.
I know it's not something
weird.
you think about. You think that you're just going to go out there and you're going to get your exercise and you're going to breathe like a normal person, and oxygen is going to take care of itself. Mm-hmm. And I believe it does to a large part because of the mechanism of that sodium potassium pump mechanism that I was talking about earlier. But if there's more than one mechanism for cellular oxygenation and that you're not using all of them, then that could lead to deficiencies of oxygen going to the cell. And I say that, well, if professional athletes and or athletes can get cancer because that's like they're getting plenty of oxygen in their body from all their aerobic activity like Lance Armstrong or whatever, and they still get cancer, then obviously oxygen intake to the blood is not equal to oxygen transfer to the tissues. Because if it was equal to oxygen transfer, then athletes would be 100% free of cancer. But the oxygen transfer, that is to say oxygen that's being carried by red blood cells, has to be transferred to your cells. That transfer is controlled in part by the omega-3 and omega-6 in the cell wall. And if you don't have enough of it, then oxygen transfer is not going to happen. And that's why so many people, when they get older, get cancer because they're deficient in omega-3s and omega-6s in their unoxidized state, so the oxygen transfer isn't happening. And, part of it's your immune system too when you're getting older, but work on every mechanism that you can to protect yourself from cancer, the immune system and the oxygen transfer mechanism.
Well, it makes sense too, because when we talked to Ed McCabe about his book and Flood Your Body with Oxygen and all this stuff, I mean, there's so many different therapies you can do, and we talked about ozone, we talked about all these types of therapies that he's talking about, and it's very, very complex. And if you're going to do if you get his book, I'm sure you have his book, it's like 600-700 pages of all these different ways you can incorporate more oxygen into your body. And I'm sure he talks about this. I haven't read that whole book, but I mean, what an much easier way to bring more oxygen into your body than doing all these crazy therapies. But if you have cancer and you have these different issues going on, you might want to do both. But I mean, talk about a much easier way to prevent disease.
Exactly. That's my whole point. It's like
so easy.
It's like I've seen like there's a product that I work with. It's basically they've got case histories. One of them was a woman with a diabetic foot sore. For 2 years, she had this open wound on her foot, and let's see, was it a right or left foot? I think it was a right foot. So she ended up basically she was eating a pristine diet, or she was very conscientious about her diet, so she was really on top of that. And she did 60 hyperbaric oxygen treatments over 2 years. And before she did that, she did IV antibiotics to get rid of this infection in her foot and this wound. Okay, the IV antibiotics didn't touch it. She does 60 hyperbaric oxygen treatments. What's hyperbaric oxygen? Pushing oxygen into the tissues, right? So you would expect it to get rid of the fungus and help the wound heal. But did it? No, it didn't. 60 hyperbaric oxygen treatments didn't touch her open wound, and this, she was basically had all this fungus growing there. When you have a diabetic foot sore, you have an oxygen deficiency at the tissue level, and you have fungus growing in that area, and a wound that won't heal, which leads to an amputation, which is what the doctors were recommending. So then she finally gets on this supplement, which restores the oxygen transfer of the body, or I should say it plays a role in restoring it, and in 3 weeks her foot's totally healed. So this understanding how to make your body use oxygen is the key. It's not that there's an oxygen deficiency from your breathing or and your exercise and stuff, you're taking care of that, but your transfer is what needs to be taken care of. So the seed oils play a critical role in ensuring that you get optimum transfer of oxygen into the cell, keeping your cells in their aerobic state, which is to say the cell is making energy with oxygen, because we don't want the cells to ever go over to the state of making energy without oxygen, because that's a tumor cell. Mm-hmm. So this is the other mechanism, though, for, you could say, controlling oxygen transfer, is that your mitochondria have to do an efficient job of converting glucose into ATP. So you might be fully aware of this nowadays, Justin, that people in the health movement are by and large demonizing carbohydrates. Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah. For
okay.
Sure.
So it doesn't exist in human history prior to our modern era. If you go back to, before 1945 and further, every culture has carbohydrates as a normal part of their diet, whether it's tuber roots, the Samoans that consumed, whether it was poi or whether it was yams or whether it was the grains that are used by the Irish, the oats, or whether it's the wheat used by Italians or the Egyptians or barley or whatever. Grains have been a principal part of human diet for forever without any ill effect or obesity or cardiovascular risk or anything that you've got going on now. Mm-hmm. But you come to our modern time and you have people that have been consuming unknowingly all the times they ate McDonald's, all the times they ate International House of Pancakes, all the times they ate Denny's, all the times they ate at any restaurant, they ate monosodium glutamate in its added to the food as a flavor enhancer, which they don't call MSG, they call it the natural flavors or some other name. Mm-hmm. This totally disrupts your insulin utilization capabilities, so you end up towards destroying insulin sensitivity, glucose utilization, and creating obesity. This is how they induce obesity in lab rats when they want to study them. They inject MSG under the skin of the rabbit's skin. The rabbit becomes obese from that MSG injection, and then they give the rabbit the animal the drug they wanted to lose weight to study the drug, mm-hmm. and then after the study's done, they kill the animal and they study the toxicity of the organ. Well, the way they kill the animals, they inject MSG into the bloodstream and it kills the brain.
So let me make sure I get this correct. This sounds so interesting. It's because you're saying, okay, so a lot of people are demonizing the carbohydrates of all kinds. And so what you're saying is that most of the carbohydrates we're eating in today's modern culture is loaded with MSG, and that's probably correct. And so it's what's happening is that the MSG is inhibiting your body's ability to upregulate and transfer insulin and sugar, and that's the problem.
That is one problem, where I wouldn't say that the grains are the only thing. I just say that foods that are pre-prepared in general, whether they're packaged in a store or whether they're bought in a restaurant, and that's the way a lot of people have innocently eaten one or more meals pretty often. They mm-hmm. are damaging their body because they lace it with MSG. The other mechanism for this inability to have insulin sensitivity happen is that people's diets, ever since we've been on chemical agriculture from after World War II till now, is you have grain-based agriculture. So animals being raised on grains, the chickens, the cows, the pork, whatever, all grain-based. So they're not getting the grasses, so they're not putting into their fatty tissues the vitamin K2. So the missing piece is A, D, and K2. Those three fat-soluble vitamins, but K2 is the biggest missing piece that they would normally make if they were eating grass, and if that becomes a part of their fat, that K2 also causes your cells to, if you give your body vitamin K2, the minoquinone 7, in a healthy person, you will reduce your insulin levels in your blood by 50%. Which means you've just improved your glucose uptake a huge amount, and you are protecting and preventing all diabetes and all obesity just because you're absorbing sugar better because of the role of K2, which is absent in all animal proteins raised on grain.
Isn't that fascinating? We did a whole show on K2, and I don't think we got into that part of it. That's so fascinating.
Not only will K2, minoquinone, not minoquinone 4, minoquinone 7 does this more powerfully. Minoquinone 7 will turn on not only your ability to use insulin and have better glucose uptake and protect you from carbohydrate metabolism problems, mm-hmm. but also activate your testosterone production in men. You want to solve your testosterone deficiencies, and I did this. I've got blood tests to prove it. Last year, mm-hmm. my testosterone was pretty low. It was 490. I now learned about this stuff. I got on this new K2 supplement that I work with, which has got the balance of AD and K2 because they all three work together, so you get a synergistic effect. my testosterone went up much higher than I need it to be. It went up to 1900. No, the high reference range is 1100. So 1900, that's pretty darn high, right?
Wow.
So this is all cool stuff, and the reason we say all this is because carbohydrates are not the problem. Your ability to absorb carbohydrates is the problem, and you can fix that with K2, AD and K2, with your trace minerals, with restoring your alkaline pH, because when your pH is restored to 7 to 7.4, so you see that in your saliva all the time, you have a good oxygen level in your body. That's what controls your oxygen levels in your body, is your pH. So again, rather than trying to force oxygen into the body and all that stuff, which can be therapeutic, first fix your ability to use oxygen by increasing your oxygen carrying capacity by restoring your pH to 7 to 7.4 as measured in your saliva, which you have to do with supplementation. There's supplements that you have to get on to get that alkaline, because your foods won't do it nowadays because they're deficient in the minerals. It just ain't going to happen. So that mechanism is fixed. Then you got to fix the mitochondria to have enough nutrients so they can run the Krebs cycle. And now when all that's in place, the sufficient oxygen levels because you're alkaline in your pH, the nutrients in the mitochondria that can run the Krebs cycle, then ideally every molecule of glucose will convert into 32 units of ATP. If those mechanisms aren't in place, the pH and the oxygen levels and the oxygen levels inside the cell, inside the mitochondria, and the nutrients for the mitochondria to run the Krebs cycle, then instead of making 32 units of ATP for every molecule of glucose, you're going to make less than that. Be it 20 units of ATP, be it 15, be it 10. A tumor cell goes down to making only 2 units of ATP for every molecule of glucose. And what does it make when it doesn't make ideal levels? What's the byproduct of that? Lactic acid. So you have a chronic lactic acid production in excess of what the body's designed to handle, which is chronically threatening your blood pH, so your body has to do all this stuff. It sacrifices red blood cells to keep your blood pH 7.4, so you become anemic, and it ain't an iron deficiency that all is the problem. Your red blood cells are simply sacrificing themselves, so you have histidine, lysine, and arginine donating themselves to absorb the acids coming into the blood, so your blood pH stays 7.4. So there's quite a few things you have to do to make this all work right, but it is doable. It's all figured out, and then you don't have to basically suffer and, get your foot amputated or whatever.
Well, what sounds interesting to me? I mean, I think that we're all interested in this, you and me and everyone listening to this around the world, is obviously cancer prevention, right? I mean, that's the big buzzword of our day is cancer. We've got so much fear placed into that one word. And so cancer prevention. But what I'm interested also sounds really fascinating in this regard is I work out a lot. I used to run. I don't really run that much anymore because I have a torn ACL that I never had surgery on. So I can't really run that well. But I do exercise a lot, and I do things that are cardiovascularly challenging to me. And so I've read a while back that a lot of the Olympic athletes will take supplements of beet, or their juiced beets. I think Usain Bolt was doing that to increase oxygen in the lungs and lung capacity and things like that. But I would think that this would be really great in terms of using more oxygen and utilizing more oxygen in the body for my workouts and things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what can happen. I mean, just the fact that Andreas went from being almost dead to gradually over 14 years converting himself from a weak, feeble to strong again, and overweight at one point, to chiseling all that extra body fat off and going back to his ideal 145. I think he was like 160. Now he's like 145 again, body weight. So his muscles are all chiseled, all showing again. And he can, and now 14 years after his first, setback with how bad he felt and how he almost died, 14 years later, he can do gymnastics again, which that's, pretty impressive. You watch this guy's videos on YouTube and you can see what he's done. He was like an amazing athlete.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and so in terms of athletics too, I would imagine you're talking about lactic acid. I mean, that's one of the main things that, when I work out really hard, I have to wait a couple days before, or at least 3 days, because I gotta flush that lactic acid out. I do the sauna, and I do a lot of alkaline, things, but you want to flush that lactic acid out. But if this is what's happening, by taking these seed oils would help flush out lactic acid. And also lactic acid, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, people talk about it. That's one of the reasons why, when you're doing curls in the gym, your muscle just gets super tense and tightens up if you don't stop because of lactic acid. But there's a direct correlation between lactic acid, if I'm correct in thinking this way, and cancer, right? Because it's really just acidic.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's what Otto Warburg showed is that there was a significantly higher percentage of lactic acid around tumor cells than normal cells. That's because they're so inefficiently converting glucose into energy. They're making much more lactic acid than they are energy. 2 units of ATP for every molecule of glucose and a whole bunch of lactic acid is how a tumor cell operates. So it naturally is producing tons and tons of lactic acid, which starts to asphyxiate all the other body parts, which is where metastases come in, because that low oxygen environment is the soup that exists for more normal cells to convert to tumor cells becomes progressively spread throughout the body by the excess lactic acid production of the tumor cells you have. So that's why when a person is trying to overcome cancer, they're using like coffee enemas so that they can clean their liver out, get their liver to cleanse itself out of whatever's built up. And then it can clear the bloodstream twice as fast of that lactic acid that's built up in excess from the tumor cells. But yeah, if you are taking the seed oils, these unoxidized seed oils, on a regular basis, you're essentially providing your body the ability to absorb much more oxygen than it normally was able to do. Therefore, the mitochondria having more oxygenation is going to be able to convert more glucose into ATP, so you're going to reduce your lactic acid production significantly, plus turn on these mechanisms of lowering inflammation in the body like we talked about in the beginning. And then if you are an athlete and you want to really speed up the healing process, I try and get people to do this technology called the Beamer. Have you ever heard of the Beamer?
I have heard of that. Yeah, it's a machine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pad device that was made in Germany in 1998, and they patented it, and they basically figured out there's a specific electromagnetic signal the body would produce in its robustly healthy state to control the capillary blood circulation so that it's running optimally. And that part of our circulation where all the oxygen transfer and nutrient transfer and waste elimination takes place is 74% of our circulation. Something like of the 6,000 miles of blood vessels in the body, it's something like 4,400 miles of actual circulation in our body is just the capillaries, which is where red blood cells go through single file.
Wow.
So that system is supposed to go through 30 to 50 revolutions every 10 minutes in a healthy body, but due to stress and aging and disease, it goes down and down to as low as only one circulation every 10 minutes. So professional athletes will lay on the Beamer and sleep on it through the night, and they may have expended themselves today in some endeavor athletically and be exhausted from that, but by tomorrow they're ready to go if they sleep on the Beamer, because their whole clearance of the lactic acid and promotion of repair of the tissues is so complete and so thorough from the Beamer effects that they're ready to go the next day.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you guys have the Beamer on your website?
Yeah. This is made. I used to have upper and lower back pain for 5 years, and I do everything perfect with my diet and supplementation, right? Still had this upper and lower back pain. Beyond the Beamer, totally gone.
Where is that on your website? Because I've got lower back issues. I pulled my back in the gym, and I've been working on it for a long time, but I've never really been the same. Where do you find this on your website?
If you look on our website, and it's just like maybe click the home button or whatever, on the right-hand side, there's a couple of rectangular or square advertisements. One is called Improve Your Life in 16 Minutes Beamer Devices. And then if you click on that, it'll take you to the website. I mean, if you want, I'll just send you the video links, and it's amazing. The videos, you can see the before and after using the Beamer, how that they've got literally photographs of the circulatory system where it's not working, barely flowing in the capillary, and 8 minutes after the treatment, the capillary circulation is like flowing like a freight train.
Oh my goodness, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, this whole idea of oxygen, because that's essentially what the Beamer is helping to do too, along with these seed oils, right? I mean, this whole idea of oxygen is so fascinating and is so necessary, but we're not really, people are just thinking, like we said earlier, breathing better and doing more meditative breathing, and that helps too. I mean, are you familiar with a guy named Wim Hof?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He's talking about this and breathing correctly, but this is something completely different with these Beamer devices and these oils, and this takes everything to another level, doesn't it?
Yeah, because there's too many people that are pretty feeble that don't have the physical capacity to rely on breath alone and to rebuild themselves. And if you're strong, robust constitution as a what's his name is that Hoffman guy.
Oh, right.
That's a different story. And I when people aren't born with have never had physical challenges, they tend to project onto everyone else that you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, not having dealt with not being breastfed and a poor absorption and mercury poisoning and adrenal exhaustion and viral problems. They have no clue, so they project onto you that you can do this because they do it. Mm-hmm. It's just not true. It's just not. I don't see it happen. That you can transfer, you can take a super damaged body with all kinds of viruses and all kinds of issues, hormonally and whatever, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden, through breath and stuff, resurrect it. I've not seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too, because we hear all the time about, someone might compare, people of today from people in the 1920s and say like, well, blah, 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 he was able to do these things, or, a perfect example is, some people in our family who was really robust health, but they never take care of their health. They never did. And I think he's like 93 years old right now, never taking care of himself. And Kate and I were just talking about the other day, what if he did take care of himself like Jack LaLanne or how we're talking about? What if he did take care of himself? He would be, instead of being 93 in a 93-year-old's body, he would be 93, maybe a 70-year-old body. Yeah. But people that lived back then, we can't even compare ourselves to them because they had completely different viral loads. They have completely different exposures to all this stuff that we're talking about. They lived in a different world back then. It's just not the same.
Yeah, and the biggest difference, though, is that it's about the soil mineral levels and what the nutrient levels were in the food prior to conception that the parents were eating. So this whole thing, when you study how genetics works, my education on this is a book called Minerals for the Genetic Code. It's a book that's theory, but everything that I've seen substantiates that it actually works, and this is the way it works. You have 64 codons on the DNA. Each codon requires a single monoatomic individual atom of a mineral to come in contact with the codon to communicate to it, so the codon is signaled to create a certain protein. So if all those minerals are present in the diet of the mother and father prior to conception, then the genetic code of their sperm and ovum will be really healthy. They'll either be as healthy as what they've got, or it will be superior to what the parents have. In other words, genetics is designed to upgrade. Every generation should become superior to the previous one if the conditions for the genetics are there nutritionally to do that. If they're not, then you'll have the same genetic weakness as your parents have, or even worse. So back prior to 1945, people born in 1910, 1920, 1930, early 1900s, agriculture, the United States of America's soil was fantastic. And by and large, people had very strong constitutions. So all those people, they came into their heyday in, say, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and so they have these tank constitutions, very strong, very robust. Back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, people were smoking and drinking, freight trains, and they were totally healthy.
I know, crazy.
Didn't have any problem. My dad did it every day of his life. He's an alcoholic and smoked 2 packs a day, Winston's, and it was like he still chugged along, went to work, did everything, had his family of 5 kids, even had two wives. I mean, the guy just was unstoppable.
Right.
Never got sick of anything. And that's what you see, because it's the constitution that you get born with, because when the constitution is genetically strong, then your body can handle a lot of abuse. Now, that's not what people should do, of course, but it's what people do and did do. But when you're born, like my parents, not knowing any better, they think food is all you need, and they raised us in an era of, every refined food possible came into existence in the 60s. So I was raised on margarine and sugar and, pasteurized milk and not breastfed, and all the candy-coated cereal, sugar-coated cereal I wanted, and desserts every time I wanted, and it was just like cavity after cavity after cavity.
Yep.
So that's of necessity going to develop a weaker constitution. And so that's what most people are dealing with, is they've been born late, let's say from the 60s forward, and you end up with a weaker constitution. And then you have the environment that we have, extremely polluted, extremely toxic, the high levels of stress, the high levels of manipulation coming down upon people through the media and whatever, the mind control that goes on. You're just so much stress, and the financial stress from an artificially, stress-based monetary system based on debt, that you end up with everything possible to destroy the human body. And therefore, you need knowledge found through the internet to basically help yourself not be a victim.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool that we're able to do these shows. I know you do lots of shows with different people, and it's just, I'm so just humbled and grateful that we're able to do this kind of, have this kind of conversation. Because you think about, back in the 70s or the 60s or the 80s even, the ability for you and I to put out this kind of information, it just wasn't possible. It just was not possible.
Yeah, I'm super grateful. The stuff I can learn every day on the internet is a lot of fun.
Isn't it? It's just great. And then disseminate as well through doing shows like this and all the other shows that you do and your own podcasts and your own stuff that you're doing. I mean, God, what an awesome time, because I mean, back in the 80s even, you're getting Channel 9 News and Channel 4 News and CBS, and that's all you're getting, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wanted to ask you about some of these oils too, before we go. I'm looking at some of the different ones here, and just looking at the oils here, you have one that says 5-seed oil blend. You have a black cumin seed oil. You have the black sesame. You have the coriander, premium flaxseed oil, pumpkin oil, hemp oil, and sunflower oil. And all of these oils are pressed in this new technology, the one, what we've been talking about here for the last hour. So my question to you is, what would someone start with, and how much should they take, and how long would a bottle last somebody?
So what would be best to start with would probably be 5-seed and black cumin. The 5-seed has all of the oils in it except for the hemp and the black cumin, but some of the same properties that are found in hemp are all in the 5-seed. The pumpkin's got the omega-3, the omega-6, the omega-9. The flaxseed's got the omega-3, the omega-6. Coriander's got the antifungal properties. It's been studied to, it's by itself, coriander's helped to raise glutathione. And we said black cumin has got anti-cancer properties and fat-burning properties. Black sesame appears to be really good for the kidneys based on Chinese medicine. I think that there's information about the black sesame that'll come out later that might indicate that it might be good for stem cell production in the body, but I don't have any science on that yet to prove that. So it's been studied to lower high blood pressure. Pumpkin seed is studies on postmenopausal women show that pumpkin, caused a decrease in high density, actually caused a decrease in systolic blood pressure and reduction of hot flashes and less headaches, less joint pain. For men, we know that the pumpkin seed oil works really good for the prostate. Works even better when you use the pumpkin seed oil in combination with saw palmetto. A sunflower is really good for the skin. The skin, when you study the level of the omega-6 found throughout all tissues of the body, it's found highest in the skin. And it's like just the studies done show that if you rub sunflower oil on the skin, it can grow back the fatty layer of under the skin and help to activate the skin cells to grow, renew themselves. So they all have unique properties. So rather than looking at oils as just a source of omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9, particularly omega-3 and 6, look at it as that you have the omega-3 and omega-6 to deal with, but you also have the information that's not scientifically categorized, identified yet at all, yet we just have empirical evidence on what it's doing. So they all have a unique beneficial property, but if a person wants to just start on, what one or two things to start, I would say 5-seed and the black cumin, and the amount would be 1 tablespoon of 5-seed per day and 1 teaspoon of black cumin 1 to 3 times per day. Just work your way up.
And how big are these bottles? Are they?
They're 7-ounce bottles.
Okay.
So a tablespoon a day would be a 28-day supply. Teaspoon a day, teaspoon 3 times a day would be a tablespoon, but that would be another 28-day supply. Okay,
so roughly these bottles will last you about a month if you take the recommended dose.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so the 5-seed oil blend, I like that one, because that might be something that people could try and see, just because it's got all 5 of those blends all in one oil.
Yeah, and I say take enough because I took a generous amount. I took a tablespoon of 5-seed, a tablespoon of flax, and dropped full of coriander the first day that I took them, and it was like I was feeling it the very first day. I have had people, like my sister took some. I think she took too little. She didn't feel anything. Then I've had other people combine it with the whey protein, and there's this synergistic effect. There's an energy upliftment from the whey. There's an oxygenation improvement from the oils. So there's multiplied, energy and well-being that can happen.
Now, I want to ask you too, just from my own understanding, because it sounds interesting to do this in the coffee drink I was telling you guys, or I was telling you earlier about. Now, you wouldn't want to add this to something like a very hot liquid, would you?
Right. No, you don't want to add it. Like you've got your, like I just cooked a bunch of rice and barley last night. So I let it cool down before I put the oil on.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to heat my oils up. I mean, 100 degrees is fine, but you don't want to go to 110 or so,
Okay, because this is kind of like what I do with your One World Whey is I make the coffee and then I add I add a little bit. I add probably about 2 or 3 ounces of cold water to it, so it's not scalding hot. And then I'll blend that together, and then so it's kind of warm, and then I'll add the One World Whey afterwards because. For that same reason, it's probably the same idea with the One World Whey as well, right?
Okay, you cut out on me for a little while there. What'd you say?
Yeah, no. So what I was saying was that when I make my coffee, I'll add a little bit of cold water to it just to make it so it's not scalding hot, and then I'll add my One World Whey after that so that it doesn't denature the One World Whey. That's probably the same thing as with the oils, right?
Yes, exactly. You want to be, like I said, 100 degrees or cooler. And then you're fine.
Oh, gosh, this sounds really good. Okay, so people could use these on salads. They can use them really kind of anywhere. You said you put it on rice?
In fact, my favorite way if I do it with a salad is that I use this sulfur salt, the Himalayan sulfur salt. It's a super delicious sulfur-rich salt. Smells like sulfur, tastes like sulfur, but my body loves this stuff. So I sprinkle some of that. I'll put, the salad, and I'll put the oils on top of salad, and then I'll put the sulfur on top of that. And it just really comes alive and just delicious, salty taste that complements the oils a lot.
Well, now, what is the general flavor of the 5-seed oil blend? Can it go to something sweet? Is something savory? Is it kind of transferable?
It's savory because there's a spiciness to the coriander, so it's always savory for that one.
Okay.
So if you want a mellow oil, not spicy, where you could use sweet, that would be flax, pumpkin, and what's the other ones here? Black sesame seed. Although black sesame seed tastes like dirt. It's not like a pleasant tasting, but it's therapeutically, it's like whoa, the mellow ones would be the sunflower, the pumpkin, and the flax and the hemp. Those are the ones.
And we haven't really talked about this, but this is something that is very, very important, and I would encourage anyone, even if people don't want to try these oils, but just a general truth to know is that this whole idea of Myron glass and any oil that we buy, even if we just buy oils at the grocery store or the health food store, should be in a dark container, right? This like these oils that are in regular glass, like right off that's not going to be a good oil, right?
Yeah, exactly. Any oil that's basically at room temperature is not good unless it's in Myron glass, and then again, it has to be pressed this way because if you're grinding it like they currently do, the 1920s technology is going to grind and push oxygen into the oil, so it's 10% oxidized by the time they make it. It's structurally damaged. So that's all that was available for prior to about 7 years ago. But for 7 years till now, there's been this new version available through Andreas Wecker that he's asked me to be his nationwide distributor for his oils, and it's like what an honor because this is like
amazing.
Everybody needs it, and it's really good.
So, do you think he'd ever do any other kinds, types of oil? Obviously, olive oil is the most popular probably oil out there. Do you think he would ever introduce other oils?
Yes, there's plans that will be to come out with the olive and probably several others as well. Yes.
Wow, gosh. Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you think that this is kind of on the same track of what we're talking about, but not as much on these products, but do you think that oils like, cashew butter and almond butter and things like that, do you think those are probably not good as well? Depends how they're made, right?
It's one of those things where it's hard to say because when you're grinding the nut with the oil, there's going to be the fiber and stuff of the nut that's going to protect it somewhat from oxidation.
Okay.
The mechanical speed and pressure of grinding the nut is not very high. When you're trying to get the oil out of a seed, it's usually very high, very hot, lots of grinding, lots of damage. But a nut converted into a butter is usually at a lower RPMs, lower amounts of pressure, and lower heat. So it's probably much gentler, probably not that big of an issue. And there's naturally occurring vitamin E in the oils all the time anyways that's not being damaged much or if at all from just the grinding process. So I wouldn't have a negative opinion of it. I think that the digestion of nuts varies per person. So some people are more efficient at vegetarian, using proteins from vegetarian sources. Other people are less efficient. So yeah, they just have to determine your body type and what works for you.
It's so cool. I love that we're in this world now in 2016 and with more products coming out on the market that are just really, really cool because, we just didn't have the ability for, even wheatgrass. People were doing wheatgrass in the 80s and the 60s and stuff. But gosh, I mean, you see movie stars now walking around with green juices and, just this ability to have these sort of concentrated green powders, and you guys sell tons of stuff like this and your One World Whey protein. I mean, the technology to be able to produce this type of food, it's like what David Wolf always says. He always says, I think he has that quote, I forget who originally said the quote, but it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. We have the worst food ever, McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, all of this horrible food that's killing us. And then you have access to stuff like this that are just so high end. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that David Wolf's statement is pretty accurate, and that I would love to see people have access to like some kind of a TV station where there's just this truth news network where they're being educated about the true history of the United States, the true way that our financial system was supposed to be set up, and that we get enough knowledge out there that we can actually have the consciousness of envisioning what the future could be like with a fair non-debt-based money system, which would then change everything. If there was a fair non-debt-based money system and we didn't have this Illuminati cabal controlling everyone, then you would have a society of freedom again, a society where virtue was exonerated, and where treating others the way you want to be treated would become commonplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I feel like it's happening. I mean, it's slow going because obviously they don't want to, release control of the ship that's going off course here. But I think it's happening. People are waking up, and now more and more people all over the world are learning about what's really going on with not just our food, but our money. Like you said, the debt-based system, contract law, all this stuff people are learning about. And it's really refreshing. And I think that same quote applies, best of times and worst of times. More and more people are being dumbed down, but then again, more and more people are waking up. And I think eventually things are going to change. I'm really hopeful.
Oh, I do too. I have no doubt about that. I'm just saying that I'm living in it, you're living in it, and I've been exposed to it long enough, and I know enough that I'm frustrated that it's as slow as it is. I mean, just the fact that I can't introduce my blood family, some of my blood family, to holistic healing because they're brainwashed by the medical profession. So if they get cancer, they're going to go get their body parts cut out, or they're going to get chemo. And that, you have to remember that there's the subconscious mind. And so the subconscious mind is filled as like a computer with a bunch of information about its surrounding environment, from how it was raised, its belief systems, and what people consider normal, to be on automatic pilot, be in survival mode. So most people, despite having a conscious knowledge, have a lot of subconscious, which doesn't allow them to go that direction. And just the fact that you've got the Democratic Party and the Republican Party still controlled by the old guard people that want to continue the system as it is, that continue to circumvent the voting process and hijack it so that it's a complete fraudulent vote, and then it goes to certain candidates that it should have gone to, like people like Ron Paul or whoever. That stuff continues to happen. So yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and it's going to happen eventually. But until you identify what the actual cancer is in society, and know what the diagnosis is, and know how to treat it, then you continue. It's a slow boat. And I'm interested in having a dialogue on it, so people start to demand a debt-free money system, and they start to demand that they can impeach any congressman they want for not upholding the Constitution. They should be able to completely impeach any senator or representative who doesn't practice according to the Constitution and completely repeal this stupid Obamacare and completely repeal the Patriot Act and all this bullshit stuff where we're still in a police state.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If people are interested in some of that stuff, you can look at a website I really enjoy called creditorsandcommerce.com, as well as a documentary called Hacking Democracy. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it's all about the voting and how fraudulent all that is. But I agree with you completely. And I'm hoping that through, the internet and things like Bitcoin and digital currencies and, more and more people moving to organic, I find this really interesting correlation between people that are awake or people that take care of themselves, like you and I.
Yes.
People that take care of themselves and deliver the oxygen to their cells and their electromagnetism in their body from the foods they eat and the minerals and all this stuff going to their brain and allowing themselves to be more enlightened. People that take care of themselves tend to be more awake and tend to be more able to understand what's really going on and looking deeper into this stuff. And so it's cool that there is a direct correlation between health, taking care of yourself, and waking up. It's pretty cool.
Yep. What you said is probably one of the most important things that's been said in this entire interview. And that is that if people understand this and get accustomed with that it's an act of self-love to consume only the highest quality foods that nature's providing and take the highest quality supplements so that you function correctly, that act of self-love translates into being in touch with God. And being in touch with God automatically translates into you wanting to do good in the world and be a part of the solution.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree with that. And I could say that from my own experience that the further along I continued in this path. I started in 2003 and I was raw foodist for 7 years and I just was organic and I did all this stuff. And the more and more I did that, the more and more I took care of myself, the more and more I felt my mind opening and learning what's really going on. And it's just been this incredible journey. But I have to say, it all goes back to the food I started putting in my body. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. So, thank you, Stephen, for your time today. I appreciate it so much. If people want to learn more, they can click on We Are Set Up with Stephen and his company. And if you guys want to learn more about these oils, you can go to, how about this? We'll just go to extremehealthradio.com/458. We'll put links to the oils and everything on that page. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I would like everyone to, see the links on your site and then they'd come to our site through your site.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Stay on the line there really quickly. I'm just going to close out the show, and I just want to let everyone know thank you for joining us, and thank you for being on this path and taking care of yourself and being on this sort of Extreme Health Radio path where you're just learning how to really, really dial in the things that work for you, the things that don't work for you, mindset, nutrition, all this stuff. We really appreciate you guys being on the journey with us. As we are learning more, you guys are learning more, and it's a great symbiotic relationship. So we appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoyed this interview, feel free to pass it on to anybody that you may know via email or on Facebook or any of these social media sites. You can just pass on the link and share it that way to your friends and family. We would appreciate that. Stephen would appreciate that, and I'm sure your friends and family would too. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for 3 more shows coming up next week. And we love you all, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Okay, episode 458 in the books with Mr. Stephen Heuer. What did you think about that? Wow, he was quite energetic, and he was saying that he's lost energy or something, but man, he was just on fire. Interesting ideas about oxygenation, oil, and it's funny because so many people in the health food world, I know, haven't really dialed in what kind of oils they take yet. And to be honest, I haven't taken these oils that he's talking about. So I'm gonna try these things and share my results with you guys. Fascinating stuff. I'm really, really impressed with his One More Way, and we sell that on our website too. But he's got so many other products on his website that people buy through us, and we appreciate that so much. That he's really on the cutting edge, and hoping to do some more shows with Mr. Stephen Heuer. Good guy, doing some great things, and hopefully you guys learned a lot about oxygenation, oxygen transfer. I thought it was really interesting what he was saying about the MSG and being, what did he say? He said the MSG prevents the body's ability to upregulate and transfer insulin. And so that's why, the MSG in the carbohydrates is causing all these people to be diabetic and put on weight and screw up their hormones because the MSG. But, most people are saying, oh, it's a diet that's too high in carbs. So that was interesting. Sometimes you listen to these shows and there's so much information that's given and, or you read a book and, 400-page book, but sometimes all you really need is one or two nuggets out of these books or interviews or podcasts, things like that, to really, really kind of open your mind to new ideas and new possibilities. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And for those that do take the One More Way and you purchase through us, we thank you for that. And if you're interested in these oils, you can purchase on this page too, extremehealthradio.com/458. And we would appreciate, and we do appreciate all of your support buying through our store. Don't forget to visit our sponsors as well. And don't forget to visit perpetualhealing.me, which is a brand new website that we are starting. If you're listening to this in the future, obviously it will be already launched. But at the time of this recording, perpetualhealing.me is not yet live or launched. But you can sign up and be notified when we do launch. And there's going to be a significant discount for those that do. And Perpetual Healing is a website that I'm partnering with two doctors. One is a naturopathic, a natural path, and the other one's a former medical anesthesiologist. And we are creating this membership community where we can, sort of be in a private community, and we don't have to worry as much about FDA and all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be a private community where you're going to be able to get access to these incredible people, and we're going to go over your health questions. Dive deep and share different ideas as to overcoming these different health challenges people have. And so this is going to be a really great community that we're launching. So if you guys are interested, how about this? The best way to do it is just go to extremehealthradio.com/458, which is this particular show page. And then you can click over to there to join and get access to this brand new community if you guys are interested. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. We love you. If there's anything we could do to help you out in your life, please let us know. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening, and thanks for sharing our shows on Facebook and purchasing through our Amazon link and all of that. We really appreciate it. It helps to keep the show going. And also, I want to say thank you to those of you who support us via Patreon. Patreon is a really cool service. It allows people to micro donate. So if you want to give 25 cents, $1 per episode per show, comes out of your account once a month, and you can donate. It comes out to be $5-10 a month, whatever you donate per show. Right now we're doing about 12 shows a month, so you can donate, and it comes out once a month. And thank you guys for that. We really appreciate it. Without your support, we couldn't do what we're doing. So we really appreciate it, and we just love you guys. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or if we can help you out, please let us know. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode next week.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition.